Imagine being treated as nothing more than a servant in your own home, forced to live in rags while those around you flaunt luxury, yet holding on to kindness and hope so tightly that it changes your destiny. That is the timeless magic of Cinderella, a story that still captures hearts centuries after its first telling. If you think fairy tales are just children's bedtime stories, stick around, because today I'm diving deep into why Cinderella is more than a fantasy. It's a lesson in resilience, justice, and the extraordinary power of believing in goodness even when life seems relentlessly cruel. This isn't just a happily ever after tale. It's a mirror of human emotions, struggles, and triumphs that remain relevant even in our modern lives. And by the end of this review, you'll see why Cinderella is not merely a princess story, but one of the greatest moral journeys ever written. Cinderella's tale begins with heartbreak and deprivation, but its enduring charm lies in its layered symbolism. She is not just a girl mistreated by her stepmother and stepsisters. She represents countless individuals throughout history who have been marginalized, underestimated, and pushed into the shadows. She lives among ashes, scrubbing floors, and working tirelessly while others ridicule her. Yet she retains dignity where bitterness could have taken root. That is the first quiet triumph of her story, her ability to remain kind when cruelty could have hardened her soul. For an audience accustomed to instant gratification, this patience feels almost otherworldly, but that's exactly why the tale resonates. We admire not her beauty, but her strength of character, the grace to smile in despair, to endure humiliation, and to believe that life could still bring joy. What separates Cinderella from many stories of its kind is the transformative role of fate combined with virtue. Unlike tales where brute strength or cunning intelligence wins the day, here it is humility, compassion, and faith that lead to reward. The fairy godmother, a figure shimmering with benevolence, appears not as a deus ex machina to magically fix everything, but as a symbol of how grace often finds its way to those who remain good at heart. The pumpkin turning into a dazzling carriage, the mice becoming horses, the gown sparkling with ethereal elegance. All these enchanting images are not merely spectacles of magic, but metaphors for how unseen forces reward perseverance and purity of spirit. Life's darkest chapters may not last forever, and even in the ashes of sorrow, there is the possibility of radiant transformation. The grandeur of the royal ball becomes the stage where Cinderella's inner radiance finally manifests outwardly. For the first time, she is not bound by rags or soot. She is allowed to shine as she truly is. The prince, often reduced in popular retellings to a passive figure waiting to be smitten, here plays an important role as the one who recognizes her worth. Their meeting is not about superficial attraction, but about destiny aligning two souls across divides of class and circumstance. Yet the true brilliance lies in the fragile time limit, the midnight bell. It is a reminder that even blessings come with boundaries and that opportunities must be seized with courage and urgency. Cinderella's hurried flight from the palace, leaving behind the glass slipper, epitomizes the bittersweet nature of life. Joy and loss often intertwine, and sometimes the smallest traces we leave behind carry the greatest weight in determining our future. The glass slipper itself has become one of the most iconic symbols in storytelling history. And not without reason. It represents individuality, destiny, and the impossibility of impersonation. No one else can fit into it, because no one else has lived Cinderella's exact journey of hardship, endurance, and grace. The slipper embodies the truth that what is meant for us cannot be taken by others, and that authenticity always prevails over pretense. The stepsisters, desperate to fit into the shoe, symbolize those who attempt to grasp rewards they have not earned. But the tale delivers poetic justice. Only Cinderella, with her quiet humility and inner strength, can step into her rightful place. From a modern perspective, one might criticize Cinderella for passivity, for waiting for external salvation rather than forging her own path. Yet, when examined carefully, her story is less about dependence and more about faith. She does not plot revenge. She does not sink into despair. And she does not abandon her values even when abandoned by those meant to protect her. Her agency is subtle, expressed through endurance, kindness, and belief in better days. In a world obsessed with immediate empowerment, Her story reminds us that strength also exists in patience, and that sometimes transformation comes not through rebellion, but through unwavering hope. The relationship with her stepmother adds another layer of psychological depth. Lady Tremaine is not simply a villain. She embodies envy, bitterness, and the destructive power of resentment. She sees in Cinderella a beauty and grace that overshadows her own daughters, and her cruelty is driven by insecurity. As much as malice, this dynamic is painfully realistic. Those who feel threatened by goodness often try to suppress it. Yet, the beauty of the narrative lies in showing that suppression cannot erase destiny. The stepmother's schemes ultimately collapse under the weight of their own injustice, proving that cruelty is always temporary in the face of truth. The cultural significance of Cinderella extends far beyond its fairy tale origins, across countless adaptations, whether Disney's animated, classic, live-action remakes, or even darker reimaginings. The essence of the story has remained untouched. The triumph of goodness over oppression? It is universally relatable because it appeals to the human longing for fairness. In a world where merit is often overshadowed by privilege, Cinderella reassures us that justice, though delayed, does eventually arrive. The story is not merely about romance, but about the restoration of balance. The worthy are lifted, and the unjust are exposed. What makes this tale endlessly rewatchable and retellable is its emotional catharsis. Each stage of the story stirs a different chord of the human heart: sorrow in her mistreatment, wonder at her magical transformation, joy at her fleeting night of happiness, suspense in her escape, and triumph in her recognition. It is an emotional arc that satisfies deeply because it mirrors life's own ups and downs, giving us the comforting belief that struggles do not last forever, and hope is never in vain. For a YouTube audience, what's fascinating about Cinderella is how it speaks to both children and adults. To children, it's a magical fantasy about gowns, castles, and glass slippers. To adults, it's a parable of resilience, injustice, and the quiet power of virtue. That dual appeal is why it has endured across generations, riddled in cultures as diverse as France, China, and the Middle East. Each version reflecting the same universal truth, no matter the setting. Goodness finds its reward, and let's talk about the aesthetics, the imagery of ash transforming into sparkle, of rags becoming royal attire, of a pumpkin glowing with enchantment. These visuals are not just ornamental, but deeply symbolic. Ashes signify endings, destruction, and hopelessness, yet out of them Cinderella rises, almost phoenix-like, into renewal. The gown is more than fabric. It is a manifestation of her inner worth finally being recognized. The ball is more than a party. It is the universe offering her a stage to reveal her true self. Everything in this story carries layers of meaning that go far beyond surface-level fantasy. What I love most, and what I think many viewers feel without always articulating, is the balance between justice and mercy in the ending. The prince does not merely choose Cinderella because of her beauty, but because the slipper proves her authenticity. The kingdom does not mock the stepsisters, but exposes their pretense, and Cinderella, elevated to royalty, does not gloat or seek revenge, but embodies the very grace that defined her all along. The resolution is satisfying because it affirms that one can go through suffering and still emerge, not only victorious, but compassionate. So why does Cinderella matter today? What defines us is how we respond to them. Do we allow bitterness to consume us? Or do we hold on to kindness, believing that life still holds beauty? As I wrap up this review, I want to leave you with the final words that echo through the legacy of this tale. The moral of Cinderella is that goodness, patience, and faith in oneself can overcome cruelty, injustice, and despair. No matter how dire the circumstances, no matter how long the night. Those who remain true to their values will eventually find their dawn. The story's magic lies not in the fairy godmother's wand, But in the truth, the resilience and kindness are themselves forms of magic. And that is why, centuries later, Cinderella still teaches us to never lose hope, never abandon goodness, and always believe that the ashes of today can give rise to the crown of tomorrow.